We're streaming. We're streaming. Make sure I'm live. Do you see me? Am I wonderful? She don't count. Why is she in my stream? What's she doing? So we're not using a wet palette tonight. We're using a dry palette. So everybody, I am on time. We're actually a minute early to my clock. I'm waiting to late. Oh, there it's 8 o'clock. So, hey, welcome to Haunted Holler Painting, hosted by Troll Lords. I'm Daniel Fisher. I'm the guy painting miniatures tonight. And tonight we are talking about dry palettes, and I'm going to teach you how to get a free dry palette. And we're talking about 3D printed miniatures. Oh, 3D printed, Daniel. You 3D printed some miniatures for us. Why, yes, I did. I 3D printed miniatures for you guys. And this is what's called a calibration cube. This is what we usually print on the printer to see where we are at settings wise. This is the last calibration cube that I printed. I pretty much got my settings dialed in the best I can, except for extraction, because I'm getting some really bad threading, or you'll see in a minute. I'll show you on miniatures. But I 3D printed a couple miniatures on the filament-based printer and a couple on the resin-based printer, and we're going to be painting that tonight. And I also 3D printed a building, and we're going to talk about a good way to primer the miniature or the 3D printed terrain, because it takes a little bit more than a spray coat, because there's something weird about 3D printed miniatures. It doesn't like taking spray very well. So anyway, so I'll show you a little bit about 3D printing here. As you know, it's pretty much imagine a hot glue gun going over and over an area and then going up a layer, and that's pretty much what this is. If you look, you can see the layers by the colors in here. You can actually hear it if I rake. I don't know if you heard that, but I was literally just raking this down the front of the cube. But this is a calibration cube. This is the bottom of the cube here. Of course, this denotes the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. You notice on the top here, it's a little bit rougher than it is on the sides and the bottom. It's because it's got to do the top, like, you know, it's not a layer. It is a layer, but it's got to put a layer on the top. So I didn't turn it on, but there's a feature called ironing in the top section. It would actually take the tip of your nozzle and flatten it out. I don't normally do that because to me it's a waste of time. It adds a little bit extra time to your print. So let me show you here. This is one of the models we'll be painting tonight. Not this one in particular. I printed out two of this. So this is what happens when you don't have your retraction set right. You get all this these little hairs. So pretty much you can just rake this off. Imagine this is your flashing on a regular miniature right here. So, but you just gotta scrape all this off. And I did that on another one of these. Let me find it here. It's this guy here. I've already primered him. So it's the same miniature, but I primered him in black gesso. You can get gesso fairly cheap at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I got this bottle of gesso at Michael's. It costed me like $4 and then the 40% off coupon. That's what this stuff is right here. Gesso works well for miniature 3D printed items because you got to apply a lot of it with the brush. Again, it's hard to aerosol a 3D printed miniature, and I'll explain here in a minute, or a model. So let me first show you this. This isn't my wet palette. You guys are like, but Daniel, where's your wet palette? You love your wet palette. Yeah, but sometimes I like using dry palettes too. This is a dry palette, aka a bathroom tile, and I did put rubber thingies on the bottom of it so it wouldn't slide around. This is a white tile from Home Depot. Now, if you go into Home Depot and you go to the tiling section and you see this tile, it's $2 for a single tile. Usually they're expecting people to walk out with a box of like 100. Well, if you walk over to the register with one, they're like, oh, this doesn't have a barcode on the back of it, so it must be a sample. And you get it for free. Hobby hack. Also buy some other stuff while you're there. Like electrical tape. That's today's hobby hack. How to get a free tile. They don't care. They think you're going to take it home and match it to something and see how well it looks and then come back and buy more. It's a little on the unethical side. But anyway, so I got some semi-dry. This is the cool part about a dry palette. You could take something edged like this and you just scrape the paint up and you don't have to worry about washing it. And when you're done with it, you can just scrape that section and once it's dry, and then you can go all over again. And if it gets too nasty after a while, then you can take and do your, throw it in scrape it and throw it in a dishwasher. So we're going to do two things today. We're going to paint miniatures. I'm going to talk about terrain, and we are going to paint a Reaper miniature as well. And we're going to do what's called a poor man's zenithal highlight. Some people say a poor man's zenithal highlight is a zenithal highlight with a rattle can. We're even go more poorer than that. So we've got this model here. It is a Elf Ranger from Reaper. I've primed him in gesso. So we're going to take a little bit of gray. We've got to do this in two sections because it's going to dry. So I've got some Castle Gray here. And I just knocked the miniature over. That's my life right there, guys. So I don't know how many people are watching right now. I just want to say hello, everybody. I hope y'all are doing great. And we're going to mix up this Castle Gray. Look at there. It's still nasty. Hold on. This thing has been setting. I haven't used this color in a while. Sorry that. This has always been a really horrible color anyway. I'm glad y'all get to see my pimply arm. It's a turn on for the ladies. Oh, speaking of ladies, I finished our genie, and I will show you guys here in just a second what she looked like. I'm just trying to get this model, or not this model, but this paint shook up. It's been a sad day, guys, or sad week. We had Grant Imahara pass away, and the grandson of Elvis Presley committed suicide. There we go. Hope I didn't trigger anybody. Yep. And what I mean by trigger is suicide is one of my triggers. It is a trigger for me because my father killed himself last year. So it's fine. It's part of life, guys. Life goes on. Okay. So anyway. Here we go. This is our genie. Painted mainly with craft paint. Let's go in a little bit closer. The only thing I really don't like is her brassiere. I tried to make it look like it had some sort of pattern to it. But yeah, pigmentation looks pretty good for craft paint. As I almost drop her. I did not take and do a lot to the base here. It's fine. I then did a Krylon satin coat just for protection, and then I threw on a layer of Army Painter dull coat, or their anti-shine matte varnish. Listen, you can paint these models with craft paint. You don't have to get expensive paint. So I'm using the magic brush, and so this is a brown gray. So what I want to do is, and this could be a little wet, so we're going to take and pull it down, and we're going to not pull it straight down, but we're pulling it down from an angle. So this is our poor man's zenithal highlight. So this is the first layer of it. We gotta let it dry out. So we don't want it too much. We're just trying to get the raised edges near the top. Okay. And that's it. So that's the first one. We're going to let it dry. Here, let's get a little bit down, a little bit more. There we go. Just going to let it dry some. And then we'll do a little bit lighter color. And then a little bit lighter on top of that. So let me clear out my area here. It's a mess. I hadn't changed my water this week. You can tell from my wonderful airbrush. I haven't had to use it. So we're in the middle of packing, so a lot of my tools for cleaning and stuff are put up. I will probably be taking a week off the week after the first, the week of the first, because we'll be unpacking and getting our house set up. So, speaking of houses, I 3D printed us a house. I'm first going to show you the crappy side, because both sides were like this. So, you can see this line here. That's actually part of the model where we had to glue it together. And this actually was an issue where it separated, or not separated, but shifted a little bit on the print. So, I had to pop it off and glue it back together. And then the same thing over here in this white spots is where I had to do that. This is more of a filler putty that I was playing around with today, the Tamiya putty. So I did that to the other side as well. You can barely tell that I've used the Tamiya putty on this side. Now, and I left it like this to show what it looks like up here in the roof section. When you would hit a rattle can, usually hit one of these with a rattle can, that's what it does. It leaves that stuff in the recesses, and I don't know why. It's only on 3D printed terrain that I've had this issue. So I don't know whether it's got something to do with the static pulling the paint closer to the raised edges or what. But I did it like this because I've been painting this with just taking a brush and painting it like this and trying to shove it up in there. But I wanted to show you all that's what it would look like if I hit it with a rattle can. Now this is a Tudor style house. This is not a Fat Dragon model. I will tell you guys that now. A Fat Dragon model would have been a lot more difficult to put together. It would snap apart and things. It's hollow on the inside. This is just basically table terrain. You can use this for Warhammer Fantasy or Age of Sigmar or whatever it's called. And let's see here. Yeah, that's about it. So, oh yeah, and if y'all are interested and need a copy of the new Warhammer 40,000, holler at me. I have a hookup. And it's not some crazy elevated prices. He has some in stock. Alright, so, let's see here. See if our poor man's Zenithal highlight's kind of dry. It's a little bit drier, so let's do this. I'm going to take some of this white ink I got right here. You can see it's somewhat separated because it's just been sitting there. So I'm just going to throw it here on the paint mixer real quick. Paint mixer is not designed for this thing. It's a little bit too wide and too heavy, but it helps. So we're going to take a drop of this. Put it right there. And we're going to work tonight on our dry brushing techniques. It's always good to paint your 3D printing stuff with dry brushing. Because it helps, especially if it's like wood or things like that, because it picks out a lot of detail. So, and I'm going to show you the difference between a filament base and a resin base. So let's see here. I'm going to empty this out some here on my thumb. A little bit more. There we go. And we're going to bring this down. And we're going to do a little bit more, one more coat on the top once this dries of just pure white. But this is our poor man's Zenithal highlight. And you don't have to use a big brush like this. You can use a smaller brush as well. So, a regular dry brush. Alright, let's wash that out one more time. And my roll of paper towels that are being depleted. So who else in the chat room? Give me a holler. Ask some questions. I know we haven't really started painting yet. I just wanted to get things set up. Alright, First, I'll show you gesso. So gesso's amazing stuff if you're an oil painter, because you can you take your canvas, whatever color you need it to be. So if you need a white canvas or a dark canvas, you'd use that color gesso. So gesso, when it dries, it tightens up and it thins itself out. It's really crazy. A lot of people like using it as a primer because it's very flat. So I'm going to show you a little bit here on the house, um, how it works. And a buddy of mine turned me on to this before I started using it. I always use rattle cans or that other cheap stuff. So you just put it on. You put it on. It's thick. You cannot thin the stuff down at all. And it usually takes 2 coats, because it thins itself out and it will crack at parts as well. So you just gotta slap it on, be messy with it, and that's it. That's how gesso works. All tonight's miniatures are actually primed in gesso, so you can see how it is, how it takes paint. But pretty much this is like this. We'll let this dry for a minute and then we'll come back. But you see how it's already fairly thin. Let me put a little bit thicker right here. Well, let's make it a little bit thicker. Right there. A little bit thicker. Actually, let's do this right here a little thick. Okay, we're gonna let that, can't gob it too much. But this is thicker than there, and once this dries, we'll see the difference, because you really won't be able to tell. It'll look just thin. Gesso can be expensive depending on what you get. I always get, like, when I'm doing a medium like gesso, I always get the cheap stuff. So okay, so we've got 2 of these models. All right, can you tell me which one, they're both on magnets, which one is 3D printed on a resin printer and which one is 3D printed? Now, these are Fat Dragon miniatures. These next miniatures I'll be painting are Fat Dragon. Which one's 3D printed on a filament based printer and which one's printed on the resin printer? So I'll bring them up a little closer. I'll let you have a look, and don't worry about the priming job. So we'll look on the back as well. I printed with the 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and this one right here is the filament base right here. So you can tell if you look up here in the shoulder, you can see a little jaggedness, and that is from where I had some fibers that I had to burn off, and around here on the shield and here in the horn of his helmet. This one is a resin print, and this skeleton that we'll be painting as well is a resin print as well. And this is a Fat Dragon miniature. And what I've done is I got these magnets, and I just pop them off like that, or slide them off, and I can just switch between this. So we're going to start with the filament base guy first, and we are going to put on some red. Let's do some red. So we're gonna do that. Well, no, let's do the silver first. So I got some of this plate mail right here, and we're gonna put a little bit right here. We don't need a lot. And so we're gonna be working on dry brushing now. With dry brushing, it's best to go in a downward position when you're dry brushing. So. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to, let's see if I can get some more light in here. Okay, let's see if this helps out any. So it's going to leave some shadowing as we dry brush. Metallics are really great for dry brushing, so we're just going to bring it down like this, and it's going to pick out the details. And we just keep doing this, and we'll pick out the full plate and stuff like that. So we'll get the metallics done on here fairly quick. Now, if you dry brush a lot of miniatures, usually once you get used to this process, You don't have to wash them afterwards unless they're just too shiny. So let's see here. So always bring it down. You rub your paint into your brush. I'm using a Citadel dry brush. This is my favorite of my small dry brushes. And we're going to do this on the resin print as well. So I'll get the helmet. I get the top now. Remember the top. And once we get it all the silver done in one coat, we'll come back in and do another coat. Get the middle of the shield and around the edge of the shield. See how you can see how the wood's picking out already? So we'll come back in with a brown and deal with that here shortly, which means we might have to clean the silver up some afterwards. And then this is plate mail metal. The equivalent, I guess they're saying that this is the equivalent of Leadbelcher. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted an image of Army Painter's conversions to Citadel and to Vallejo colors. It's a really nice chart. Some of them are dead on. Some of them I'm like, yeah, you guys are stretching it just a little bit on that one. So we've got this sword here. So we'll come in and get the sword. Right there. And you can see the mail down at the bottom here. The chainmail. Let's get this a little bit more. And seriously, this was the first technique I learned when I started painting miniatures. After I learned to paint miniatures, base coat them, I'm like, everybody's like, you should try dry brushing. I'm like, what's that? And they explained it to me. Of course, I was in high school at the time, so I was an idiot. Thought I knew everything. So here we go. So let's, since we got the silver out already, the metallic silver, let's go ahead and set this down. Switch over to this model. I do believe, don't we still have a Kickstarter going on for Troll Lords? Or did it just end? Oh, it ended yesterday. I guess y'all have to wait till it's in the store before you can buy it. Suckers. Oh wait, did I say that out loud? Let's see here. Anything new in the news on Troll Lords? Let's see here. We covered last week the Conan stuff. This is gonna be awesome. Art of Conan. See, that's the thing that I've noticed about the trolls is that you don't just get an RPG. I mean, they like literature, they like history, they like it all, and so you're still going to get your stuff like your artwork and things like that. There are a few interesting. There's a bundle of holding out right now. If y'all are interested in the Flash Gordon from stuff for Savage Worlds, it's on bundle of holding. I can't remember. That goes to the National Center of Child Exploitation, which is pretty cool. Me and my wife, we donate a bit of money throughout the year to companies like groups like A21. They help fight human trafficking. So it's something that's on our radar, like hardcore. Let's see if we can get through this with what we got left. Okay. Sometimes you have to take it side to side, and that's to get certain recesses, but that's fine. Okay. And you can still see some lines in the resin print. Not all resin prints are great, and then I also have a cheap resin printer. Mine's not like a high-end printer. It's a sub $300 printer. At the time I got it over a year ago. Okay, so here we go. Gives you that little dingy look of a night that's been out on the field. And then let's see here. Let's get this guy one last time with his, our poor man's zenithal highlight. Let's clean our brush out some. Yeah, the zenithal highlights are, you go from dark to light, but you take it up, like you go like, black all around, straightforward is gray, then the top is really light colors. So let's see here, we're gonna use this brush, see how this ink does. Okay, and I don't have to necessarily this isn't doing that great. We're just mainly doing the shoulders on this guy and his feathers here. We're going to paint him here in a minute. I think that's good. On the shoes. I think we're good to go for him right now. I think that's as good as we're going to get with the dry brush. Oh, those magnets, I got to glue them together. They just shoot across and try to hit each other. These are magnets that you would glue to the bottom of a 3D printer bed on the backside that you would hold a metal spring plate to. I got extras in a kit for one of my printers. So they work fairly well for doing these miniatures. Like I've got one inside this cap here. So now we've got this skeleton. So look, that's how good they are. So we got the skeleton. He's going to have this mace. I think I'm going to paint that silver. But I don't want to paint the mace first. I want to do the skeleton bone first. So we're going to get out a little bit of this. Now, a lot of you people commented to me that you're painting hordes of skeletons and they suck. Mainly one person in particular. My producer. If you want to paint them fast, this is how you paint skeletons fast. There's two different ways you can paint skeletons fast. One, you can just spray on skeleton bone from Army Painter. They make a primer for that. And then you can just wash them with their strong tone. You're done. Or you can paint them black and then just dry brush everything. So we're going to come in here, bring it down. Might have to do a couple coats here. And these are the free models that Fat Dragon sends out every so often in their newsletter. These are supportless models, so you don't have to print them with supports. Okay. So we're gonna let this set for just a second, and then we'll put another coat on there. But I mean, look how fast we just put that on there. See if we can get this bones a little bit. Okay. See how strong that is? It pops the magnet out. Alright, now let's see here. We've got the, let's clean that off here. So I went ahead, I've got some skeleton bone down, so we can come in here and do the horns on our knights. And see. If y'all have issues hearing me, just let me know. I sometimes get quiet. And I'm working on a new hobby hack, how to make your own clear coat. But in the end, it's probably going to be cheaper, depending on how much you make. I mean, if you're just making small quantities, it's probably end up cheaper to buy it. So far, the recipe is matte medium, water, about a 50-50 relationship there. and then Flatative. It's stuff from Badger. So you're looking at $20 in materials, and you could probably make a lot. So I mean, this depends if you're really wanting to get into that. It's not going to be as great as a polyurethane or something from Krylon because it will still eventually rub off. But I mean, it's just one of those things that if you're not going to handle the model, like there's some rules about painting models. If you're not going to handle the model and the model will take paint without primer, you can paint a model without primer. So it's just weird stuff like that. Let me hit these horns real quick on this guy again. Ah, hello, guy with horns. All right. So now this one, my set of horns. Let me get my keyboard out of the way here. 3D printed me a keyboard holder. Get this up so y'all can see it. So, you know, we're not dry brushing these horns, which is fine. You don't have to dry brush everything. Try not to spend too much time on the models. Again, the key is to get it onto the table as quickly as possible. Let's see here. I'm going to let that skeleton dry a little bit more. This is Chaotic Red. It is, let's see here. It's a deep black red. Mostly red versus black. Vallejo makes a black red. It's mostly black. So what we're going to come in here and do is I'm going to paint his breeches. And I'm going to say it like that as well. I'm going to paint them this color. There. And I'm going to paint his shirt the same color. And he is wearing leather gloves. Alright guys, what color should I paint his cape? Let me know in the comments. Willie! Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of this skeleton bone. And I'm going to mix it with a little bit of this red. Just right here and get it in my brush. And I'm going to come in here while this is drying. And I'm going to do a few little edge highlighting here. Nothing too drastic. Okay. Let's get to the other night. Same thing. Clean the brush out some. Dry it off. So I used 1.5 is my standard layer height for that printer. So I was asked what layer height did I use for the nozzle, and this is the filament printer right here. So my draft is 0.2. Everybody's like, well, you should use 0.2 as your standard, and I'm like, why? If it can do 1.5. I have seen some guys take it down to like 0.05. To me, that's just insane. You're supposed to So gesso, I was asked if gesso helps with the ridges. It kind of does. You could put it on thick, and if you put it on too thick, it gets gloopy. And so, I mean, you can do that. I didn't do that with this. There's lots of little tricks you can do. Like I just got through printing me a mask for outside that uses um, cotton rounds for makeup removal as the filters. Um, and you know, I have this epoxy stuff that's made for 3D printing that I could paint on it and it seals it. And if there's any cracks and stuff like that, it'll seal it up, but it'll make it completely flat and like glass. So you can use stuff like that. Some people have used Elmer's glue to do like a wash of that and it fills in the cracks, but you can potentially lose detail as well. So all right, we've got the red on that guy. Now let's do Mr. Skeleton again. We're going to come in here and give him another layer of dry brushing. Alright. Let that dry. I'm going to make his cloak is going to be this red. Oh no, blue cape. Okay, well that's the color of the knights, not the skeleton. So Willie wants a blue cape. Well, we've got two knights though. So once we're done painting our 3D printed stuff, we're going to switch over to our poor man's zenithal highlight. Now, for you guys that are late joiners, we're not using a wet palette today. We are using a dry palette using a tile that I obtained from Home Depot for free. That was our hobby hack again. Just go in there and get a tile, and if you're shopping and buying other things, they'll more likely think it's a sample and not charge you for it. Now, of course, there'll probably be somebody from the stream that works at Home Depot. And it'd be like, listen, guys, we can't do this anymore. This guy's telling people to go get free tiles. Okay. Let's see, here the motorcycle's outside. Alright, so there's the back of his cape. Yeah, you can tell that there's some skeleton bone there on the cape. But again, it's going to be washed down a little bit when we do a wash over it. His cape, if we do a wash. This is fine. Oh no, we've got bubbles. Tiny bubbles. Okay, so all that's left to him is his boot and his whatchamadigger. So we're going to take his mace. And I've got some true copper here. And I'm going to put... it didn't mix well. The thing is, you gotta get that ball bearing in there moving before you put it on the paint shaker. Oh man, I love that sound. My painting show on Norse Foundry's Twitch stream has been pushed back, by the way, guys, until I get moved. We just wanted to make sure I get established. There we go. Need to get that out a little bit. There we are. This is True Copper from Army Painter. So, I've been thinking about trying to learn how to paint miniatures with oils. It's possible. I've talked about an oil wash before. But more and more miniature painters are leaning towards oil paints now to paint miniatures. I thought about giving it a try. The problem with oil paints, I'm gonna have to go straight on this one. Problem with oil paints is this: you're paying a lot. If you're getting decent paints, you're going to pay a little bit more than what you would pay if you were using acrylics. And because the actual pigments in there are not really synthetic, they're made for, from actual things. That's the best way to put it. The only color, and I kind of wish I could get some of this color, is Mummy Brown. It's like the hardest color to get because it hasn't been made in like 50 years, I don't think. Because it's literally made up from ground up mummies. So they used to take those mummies. You'd see pictures. I think Alyssa posted a picture. Alyssa Fadden, she does some map making and stuff with troll words and things. And me and her are supposed to be working at GaryCon next year of a really nice paint class for beginners and more expert level, and working to have a contest as well, a higher end contest than what I normally do. I usually have a beginner's contest, the best beginner paint job. And but she posted a picture of a guy selling mummies that's probably over 100 years old. Well, the people would buy those mummies and they would take them and pulverize them. If it was nobody famous, and they would pulverize them and turn them into a pigment, and it would get made into a color called Mummy Brown. It probably hasn't been made in about 100 to maybe 200 years. It was really popular, I think, from the 1500s and 1700s to use that color. It's just a really weird shade of brown, and they haven't really been able to reproduce it artificially yet. Because you need that pigment to produce that pigment. It's just weird. But I think it's a really cool shade of brown. Alright. Now, leather brown. A little watery than I'm used to. So we're going to get the boots. So a cool trick with leather brown is to shade it with two different colors. If you notice, these boots are your standard medieval boots that have the rolled down top. And so the inside of them would probably be softer than the outside of it. Therefore, the color would be lighter. So what you could do is, if you got like two different shades of a wash or water to wash down. You can use the darker wash on the bottom part of the boot, and then you use the lighter wash on the top part of the boot, and it would give it the appearance of two different colors. Now I have a wash around here somewhere. It's a red leather. I like using that on leather, and so I usually use it like that. The bottom part I would do with the red leather for the outside of the boot, and the inside, then that's when I would come in with a brown wash or a flesh tone to do the boot with. This is fairly thin, so we'll come back with this and go over it again here in just a second. Bit tired tonight. My 3-year-old woke up at 2 o'clock last night screaming his head off. He has just gotten a fear of the dark, and I had to go downstairs. I started sitting with him, and then he started screaming for his mom. Then when his mom came downstairs and I went back to bed, he started screaming for me, and so it's from 2 to 4 last night. Okay. Oh, I forgot the gloves. Anybody got any questions? Anything y'all want me to cover in future shows? If I can get the gumption to do it on here, I'd paint my Nazis. My bolt action Nazis. You always have to say that like that. Nope. That's you're thinking. My producer mentioned that they were 15 millimeters, and I told him no because he's thinking of Flames of War. Bolt action is a 28 millimeter. They are trying to historically compete with 40K. It's gaming for adults. Let's see here. We can be a little messy with this. Here. Okay. So showed my wife the genie last week or after the show. She says, "Please stop showing me stuff in mid paint because I always think it looks horrible until you finish." It's funny. She's very supportive. Somebody should go tell Tom Tullis I'm painting his miniatures tonight. Yep, he owns Fat Dragon. Most of these are designed by him. Alright, so let's see here. We need oak brown next. Let me check this guy's boot. A little brown there. Kind of thinned out some towards the end. Y'all need to tell me when I'm not in shot. Alright. Still use my fat brush. One day I'll use my skinny brush. Ugh. Alright, let's see here. Alright, oak brown, where'd you go? There you are. Let's get it mixed up. There it comes out. Alright. So we're going to take this oak brown, put it in our dry brush, get the paint out of our dry brush, And we're going to try to dry brush brown to pick out the detail. And we can still go back in and fix it here if we mess up. So, which is fine. Until you learn good control of dry brushing. And usually I'll make smaller dry brushes. I'll show you here in a second. Okay. It's not turning out that great. So let's clean this brush out. So let me grab. Okay. Let's see what I got in the magic toolbox. So I've got this number. I'll take this number 4 round. Cheap brush. Cheap. And clippers. You're like, oh no, this is sacrilege. Something funny just happened, guys. Round brush. It's round, and you can get it into more details. So that's the great thing about using cheap brushes. Sometimes you can modify them when they get wore out to what you need it for. Sorry. That's my exasperation. So let's see here. Let's use it on this guy over here. See how he looks. This brown's kind of thin though, so it's not going to show very well. My daughter's been at the beach all week. She comes home tonight. I gotta quarantine her when she gets home. So she comes in here busting and yelling at me. It's because she's missed me. Not because I've been in her room playing her guitar. So, see how we got a little bit of a smaller dry brush area here? So we can get in those areas a little bit better. So, the brown is coming along a little bit, but we have to do it in layers. Because it's one of those colors that is translucent. We're taking it against the grain of the wood to give it a little detail. Okay, let's clear that out. What is that plate mill here? I hear somebody yelling. It sounds like either my daughter or my son. It's probably my daughter. I just messed up his glove. It's alright. That brown makes that that plate mail in the center of that look grimy, which is kind of cool. And see, I messed up again, so I've got to fix it again. It's my night, guys, to mess stuff up. She's got an interview for her first job this weekend. Like a real job. Right now, she's just been cleaning a friend's barn. So it's a fast food restaurant, a local fast food restaurant here that everybody's obsessed with. It's like Whataburger is, and in the South, Mid South, and In and Out is. This is what this is here, but it's like there's only like 40 locations. Okay, I heard Whataburger's garbage. Listen, my stepsister is from Texas, home of the Whataburger, and she's like, "Oh man, you gotta try Whataburger. Whataburger's the best stuff ever." And she comes up here. I said, "Let me introduce you to Pals." That's what it PAL''S. We go up there. I said, "I want to get a big pal with cheese," and they're like, "Okay," and a hot dog. And a sauce burger, which is pretty much a hamburger with this sauce. And the sauce is literally 2 part ketchup, 1 part mustard, 1 part relish, seasoning salt, and MSG. It's great. And I'm using craft paint tonight. Anyway, so she's like, this stuff's amazing. And they lived up here for a couple months until they went back to Texas. And like, she still messages us about Pals. Oh, I miss Pals. It's like, yeah, Whataburger's garbage. Sorry guys, y'all just didn't hear that conversation in my ear. I apologize. I'm gonna have to get Bake in here with us one day, so you can hear this banter back and forth of me and him talking. Because if I didn't have him talking, I would babble on about stuff I shouldn't be talking about in public on somebody else's Twitch stream. So I will tell you, today I bought the Season 2, Episode 14 of Community, the D&D episode, which I hadn't seen since it actually aired. And it made me want to cry. It's such a sweet episode. Y'all need to go watch it. But you can't on Hulu or Netflix because they took it off because somebody dresses as a drow. And even people in the African American community were like, that's dumb. It's a fantasy creature. But of course, to get the rights, I had to buy it through Amazon. But to get the rights to it, they had to probably make a deal with WotC, and WotC probably told them to pull that episode off. So I'm going to show you something. We've got this area between his legs that is cape. A lot of people would try to paint that at this point, and it would mess up everything else. And here's my theory on that. Just don't do it. It's not really going to make that big of a difference for a tabletop standard on a miniature, and if it's going to mess up the rest of the color scheme. So here we go. I think that's probably the best way to answer that question. So this paint is fairly translucent, which is fine. We don't want his blue cloak to be too blue. That's when you kick in, I'm blue down there. I need a soundboard, is what I need. I hear the pitter patter of a 10-year-old's feet. He keeps saying, I want to learn how to paint, Dad, but I can never be as good as you. That makes you feel good. I've been working with him a little bit, but he just, if we sit down and paint, he quickly gets up and gets frustrated and goes and plays video games. He'd rather play video games, of course. Almost every kid would. But it's like, dude, you've got to have a hobby that's away from that screen. Because one day when the world ends and we don't have any electronics, you're going to be sitting there in the dark wishing you could paint miniatures, but you can't see because there's no electronics. I'm that dad. So nobody gave me a secondary color, so this cloak's going to be blue as well. And we have 1 hour left, which means it is about time to start the final model. Which I will start as soon as I get this cloak dealt with. And this is the one we've been doing our Poor Man Zenithal highlight on. I've been wanting to paint this model for a while because I really like this Elf Ranger. Okay, we're going to let this dry. It's going to look goofy for a while. But, I mean, for the tabletop, for a 3D printed model, I mean, that looks fairly good. I mean, you could throw that down and be like, look, boom, eat that, Grandma. And remember, we started out with it looking like this. Because everybody likes my sweet, sweet style of printing. They can't tell the layers. Ooh, it's my wrap. I'm a professional rapper right there, guys. I got paid. And you could pay me through Patreon. Support me to help buy models and more paints and more supplies so I can make this show a lot better. I know this is my shield. Is that the right word for this? Anyway, I'm just trying to make this better for you, and I'm not trying to make a living from this at all. This is like $2, $3, $5, $30. You get different things at different tiers. You get access to first tier to my Discord channel, and from there you can talk to me. Sometimes you can talk to me through audio, sometimes you can talk to me through chat. And then the next tier is the $5 tier, where you get access to any new recipes that I have before everybody else does, if you want to try it yourself and do this at home while we go along. And then at the $30 tier, this is what you get. You have the ability to take an hour of my time for me to sit down with you through video and help you paint. Or, I have not updated it, you could send me a model a month and I will paint it for you to a tabletop standard and send it back, as long as it's no bigger than this. No tanks. No 3D printed predators like this. You like that, don't you? Look at that guy. He's pretty cool, huh? Anyway, but a standard model this big, and when I say this big, this is a 28mm model, so that's how big I will go for you for a tabletop standard for $30. You're going to get me painting it for about an hour and a half, and I'll use as many colors as I want, with a minimum of 5 colors. And again, that goes to helping us keep supplies. I'm looking at you guys to help me do that. Unless you work for Citadel, Reaper, or Vallejo. If you want to sponsor me, I'm okay with that, dude. I didn't mention Army Painter because they already sponsor me at conventions to host paint intakes with kids. So I teach children how to paint models. Alright, so what do we got here? We got this elf. This elf has a few different colors to him. He's mostly going to be brown. He's got a little bit of scale mail right there. So we're going to get that scale mail first. We got brown. We're going to have leather brown. We're going to have, there's some leather there. Of course, we got the oak with the bow. We've got his sword. His hilt's going to be copper, or I could do brass. And then we've got his hilt, scabbard, which it'll probably be silver, trimmed in gold with a leather wraparound. So I'm trying to think about what brown I want to use for his cloak. I'm still thinking I'm going to use a leather brown for his cloak, which is fine. It's a thin color and it will show the zenithal highlight very well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of that silver I had left and take my little bitty tiny dry brush that I made right here. Put some silver on it. And I'm going to attempt to get in here to get that scale mail. Look at there, that whole section's done. But Daniel, how did you do it so fast? I'll tell you 5 easy steps. 1, go to Patreon. I'm just kidding. That was my joke. Come on, you have to laugh. Okay, so this paint's a little thin to begin with. I am going to mix a drop of glaze with it. Maybe. See how well this turns out. I'm not going to mix any water with it because it's already fairly thin. But I'm going to mix a little bit of glaze. This is going to be his cloak. Right here. And reason why we're trying to get this glaze in here is also to, because we're kind of wanting to glaze his current cloak because we did this zenithal highlight. So we're going to come in here really quickly and I'm going to brush this on. We may have to do more than one coat, which is fine. Because it is already fairly thin down to begin with. And so this is going to get me to explain a little bit about undercoating. So especially you 40K guys, pay attention. So undercoats, aka the color of your primer, affects the color of your model when you paint miniatures. Okay, and what that means is with the undercoat, if you want that grim dark look that they have for 40K, you would undercoat in black. That helps with the grim dark. You want dark tones. If you want something light and more cheery, you would go with a gray. If you want really bright and popping colors, like say for instance you wanted to paint a blue dragon and you wanted the colors just pop, you paint that in white, or you prime it in white, and from there you would build your colors on top of that. So if you're going to use, you just got to depend on which colors you want to have popping and stuff like that. So looks like this guy's got some hair. Should he be a standard blonde haired elf, or should he be a brown haired elf? Answer in the comments and we will go from there. This is more fun with participation, guys. I want y'all to talk to me. I know I'm not Steven Chenault, but still, gosh. Let's see what we can do in an hour. Let's see here. Grape Ape. Alright, blonde it is. You're the first to respond. You, my sir, get the kudos for today because you're talking. Sorry. Okay. Let's get out some blonde. We're going to go cheap with this. We're going to go baby blonde because it's an elf and you can't really tell an elf dude from an elf chick. Elven flesh. Let's see here. I need some more browns. Let's see here. This is a good color here. I'm going to take this monster brown. I'm going to use it today. I don't know. Wait a minute. It's desert yellow. Looks really cool. Sometimes you just get too many colors, and you're just like, dang it, why do I have so many colors? I never say that. Yes, I will show you the genie in just 1 second. Yes, the genie. The genie. The booby lady. Hooters hoot face. Here you go, Willie. I know this is what your dreams are made of. See the butt crack under the hair? There you go. That's what your dreams are made of. I know. Don't tell your wife. There you go. Alright. Let's see what we got here. I grabbed this hemp rope. Let's mix it up. Grab some greedy gold. Grab some Monster Brown. Monster Brown. I want to be a Monster Brown. Alright. So first we'll take some Monster Brown. The lighter shade of brown. And we're going to mix it with a little bit of this glaze. So my brush still has a little bit of water in it. So we're going to come in here and get his front clothes with this Monster Brown. We don't want everything to be leather brown. Then what the point? We would be just like, hey, let's just paint this whole thing brown. So he's got armor on underneath, so he's got money. He's a rich elf. Let's let this dry. Dry that off. So I got to play Dungeon Crawl Classics again this week, and it was kind of fun. We had a couple other extra people show up for the game, and of course it was that module that I'm not going to play anymore online, but it's pretty much a TPK. And so like they asked me afterwards, after I killed everybody, like, how could we beat this if it's designed to kill, like if you can't kill the creature? Well, they're on a ship, and they have to get to the premise of it is they have to get to the top of the ship, to the top deck, and signal another ship and get off the boat. Problem is, all the gates going up are locked, but there's one thing that isn't locked, is the pipe that they crap down into the bottom of the ship. They have to go down to the bottom of the ship and Andy Dufresne that thing all the way up to the top and signal the other ship. They were like, really? You were going to make us crawl in a poop pot? And I was like, dude, this is literally a game. You're not really crawling up in a poop pot. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Monster Brown that I've got here, and I'm going to come in here and put it on my cloak where it billows out here towards the bottom. So we're going to work it in some. This isn't perfect. This isn't, oh, wet blend. I should have used this right here. There we go. It helps for the areas that you can't really see the poor man's in it. I'll highlight from. here. It's more of this monster brown. Now here's the only thing about using a dry palette is, of course, everything dries out a lot quicker. So you got to pay attention to that and be very understanding that it's going to dry out. I primed the 3D printed stuff with gesso with a brush. Okay. And same way with this. If you put the gesso on just right, and we'll go back over here to this model real quick. As you notice that the thicker part here is just darker, but you can still see some of the definition from the 3D print in it right here. So the gesso itself, if you put it on and not glob it on, it's going to show a lot more definition. The key is, do you really want to paint with it? Some people like it, some people don't. I use it from time to time, unless I have to airbrush something. You can't airbrush it at all. Lord, you can't airbrush it. So if I'm going to use any of the contrast paints, I can't use it. Let's see here. Let's do some oak brown. I can get this bow. Okay. While the rest of this guy dries. So it's the only thing I don't like about this oak brown. If you can get it on right, it's a good color. But like, it's so thin sometimes. Remember, I also have a Facebook group, not a Facebook group, but a Facebook page. I do have a Facebook group called Enabled Miniature Painters, and it's for miniature painters that have disabilities, either emotional, physical, or visual, and it's to help them and support them, and to say, hey, listen, man, you can paint miniatures no matter what. I don't care if your hands shake. If you like it, you like it. It's just, the painting miniatures is about spending time doing something you like to do. And like I've told people in the past on commission painting, people are going to like what you do, and they're going to hate what you do. You could be the best painter in the world for miniatures, or you could be one of the worst painters, but somebody's going to like it. And so, like, somebody is always willing to not have to paint their own miniatures, will have you paint their miniatures as far as commission painting goes. They don't have to be beautiful, they just have to look good on the table. If your price is better than the other guys, then they will more than likely grab your stuff versus the other guy. Never used their matte base coat for prints, so I wouldn't know, Willie. Sorry, bud. I mean, I'm pretty sure it would work. Let's see here. Let's get some more Mr. Monster Brown. I don't like how this is showing through at the bottom here. Okay, so we're getting ready to bust out the gold here in a minute. I think I'm going to do, I don't know, he's got these forearms. I kind of imagine him to be bracers, but he's an elf. Let's see here, let's get the leather out. Alright, hemp rope, we'll go with it first. So, get some of this. Now, this is a tan, but it's kind of got a little green in it. Because, you know, hemp. And to make that funny face, y'all pay attention to my face, you get to see the funny stuff. Because my wife says I'm funny looking all the time. Let's see. in here. Paint all this with the hemp rope. Except for the bottom. No, 3D printer is a different type of metal. I mean, not metal, but plastic. It's really and truly, if you want to use a rattle can, Krylon primer, because that stuff will for miniatures. But when you do the terrain, then I would use a brush and use something like gesso or a cheap paint from folk art. So, but yeah, sorry, I get what you're saying now. The clear coat matte, I've never tried it, and to me it would be kind of a waste to use it on a 3D print. Bones are a little bit different because a lot more definition in a bone than what you would have in a 3D print. So sorry about that, Willie. You just caught me not thinking there for a minute. Okay. I say this is wrapped with some sort of cordage. Sorry, I told you guys I'm tired tonight. That's what happens when a 3-year-old wakes up. He came back from his grandma's. He'd been swimming all day and fell asleep on the car ride home, and it's my wife's night with him, so he's going to be up all night. It's funny. I don't care who you are. Alright. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's do his face real quick. So we're going to cheat tonight on faces. We are going to do a wash on the faces. If we can. Maybe you could see that very well. Alright. It's close enough for government work. Okay. Let's go back to his face here. Tickle his chin with the bottom of this brush. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Sorry, guys. I go a little insane this late at night. I'm getting hungry. Alright, Babe Blonde. I hear a dog. I don't know if it's my big dog or my little dog. So you can see right here, this is fairly transparent. Look, I'll show you right here. So you can't really tell. So we're going to use this on his hair. Probably need to do multiple coats. Go back over here because I forgot his hands are exposed. So we're going to put some of this on his hands. And what really could help is if you all find what I do useful or informative or even entertaining, which a lot of people say I'm not very entertaining at all. Um, just share this out with your friends. Be like, listen, I know this dude. He's an idiot, but he likes to paint miniatures, and you should go check him out and watch him paint miniatures. So, greedy gold. This is a darker gold color from Army Painter. Willie, you need to check out my Facebook page because I posted an image there showing the Army Painter equivalent into Vallejo or for Citadel. It's my big dog. His name's Brody. He's special. He's my pound puppy. I got him 6 years ago. He sleeps with us in the bed. And then we have a Boston Terrier. She's 6 months old. Her name's Luna. She's on crack. Okay. Really trying to figure out what I want to do with that. Skillet and plate mill. I got some right there. Squeaky chair, squeaky chair. Everybody knows my squeaky chair. So now I'm doing the belt buckle. Go back over here with the gold. There's some banding here. I'm just gonna say it's a metal banding because this is some sort of weird elvish bow that has a recurve to it. There we go. Okay. And let's see here. Some leather brown. Some of this wonderful leather brown out again. We have 33 minutes to finish this miniature. Can I do it? Can Daniel beat the clock and get there what he needs to get done? So I will tell you guys, if you got kids, young kids that are really wanting to get into RPGs, you should look at the Harvesters box set. Because it's actually a really good box set. It teaches the kids the wonderful Trollard siege engine, but you get to play as animals and you can put them in all sorts of hijinks that are animal related. Let's see here. We got this little band here. We're going to make that gold. So far, this is what we've got. What color should I do the braces? Should I do them leather or should I do them metallic? Not everybody all at once. Let's see here. Let's get some of this copper out. I guess I will do it in copper. But I needed the copper for something else too, so. And there's a jewel here on the hilt of his sword. Let's see here. Heelys and copper. He's got a shirt on underneath that. They're sticking out. I'll just say that's copper too. I'll be lazy tonight. Why was copper used more than iron and steel, guys? Answer me this question back in the day. So it's easier to work with copper and bronze than it is to work with iron and steel because it requires a lot more heat to work and it's harder. It's your fun fact for the day. So I got my models in for the Norse Foundry show. And I started putting them together. I'm tempted to like paint one on here. Lots of feathers. He sent me some of their adventures adversaries. They've got really nice models. Let me get one out for you real quick while this dries up some. This is the one I just put together this week. They come in a tin. Notice there might be a little bit of delay on the camera. So this is the one I put together this week. It's like a Ravenkind, and he's going to be a sorcerer. I don't know if he sent me the turtle one. He sent me this one. He sent me Araka, the bird people or whatever they are. And wonderful D&D races. Half of them are made up. Yeah, that's when you're all supposed to be like, Daniel, they're all made up, son. And be like, no, they're not. I know dwarves and elves in real life. There is only 4 playable races: humans, halflings, dwarves, and elves. There. I'm just saying it. I'm leaving it there. Actually, you got half elves too. So let's talk a little bit about Session 0. Does everybody know what that is in RPG terms? Usually, Session 0 is when you sit down and build your characters, and it's also the time when you lay ground rules about your campaign, how people are going to react with each other, and things of that nature. And also, like, Session 0 is really important, especially the new players. If you've been playing with a group for a while, it's not that bad. But usually, when new players, you have to introduce them slowly to the game and explain the rules. And then you also have to explain, as the dungeon master or the game master or the castle keeper or whatever you're playing, what you expect of them, and then explain to them what they're going to get from you. Where I'm going with this is sometimes you have to talk to people about things that they wouldn't like in the game. And this is very important because earlier I did say that images or discussion of things like suicide is kind of a trigger to me. It's very important to talk about this stuff before you start a game because you really don't know what is going to trigger somebody. I mean, you don't know whether or not, like, somebody could have been a veteran at one point in their life, and thoughts of war and stuff like that could bother them. You know, you don't know whether or not somebody had an encounter that in their life, a physical encounter that was not brought upon by them, and something like that in game could trigger them as well. Um, and I'll tell you, I was running a game and I didn't think it was going to bother me at the time until I actually said it. I had a character that, not a player character, but a body they found of a character that had committed suicide, and I literally had to sit an hour after the game and just be like, why did I do that? Because it really did bother me. And I'm not trying to throw my garbage on you guys. I'm just letting you know that usually when you're introducing new players, because I do play a lot in the public domain, like at comic shops and online and stuff like that, you have to sit down with these people. You have to explain it because you don't want them to come away from the game feeling bad. You want them to come back and play the game, whether it's with you or with another GM. I do have a tendency when I play with kids, especially like at scouting events or with my kids' friends and them. If I'm their first DM, I make it to where they're going to compare me to every other DM out there, and I make it to where I make the I make it to where they're like, man, this guy isn't as good as Daniel. Like I do sound effects and I get up and I act. And with kids, you got to keep them entertained because they're used to playing video games and stuff like that. So like I'll act things out for them and get really excited and stuff like that when they're doing things. And I celebrate their roles and stuff like that with them. And they like that. They really appreciate stuff like that. But yet, there's, you know, as an adult with common sense, there's certain things you can and can't talk about with kids. You just got to treat everybody like maybe I shouldn't talk about that, you know. So, not being a Debbie Downer, guys. I'm just trying to give y'all some advice if you're going to run a game. I know I joke about the grim dark and all that other stuff, but you gotta watch what you do around certain people. You want to show people the good side of the hobby, not the bad side. Because there are people out there that will certainly show them the bad side. And you don't want to be labeled one of those people. Yeah, dirty paint water. Okay, we got 23 minutes left. I'm almost done. What am I doing here? Okay, silver. Okay, need some more monster brown. I do think they're getting ready to start up, hopefully, eventually, soon, an old program at Troll Lords called Knights of the Crusade. I've heard rumors, and they're, you know, that it's going to kind of be like the whole, you know, Adventurers League and Pathfinder Society and stuff like that. But I also heard that we might be doing something on the lines of the road crew stuff from the guys over at Goodman Games. So yeah, my brain ain't working right at the moment. There's a color I want. It's a Citadel color. I gotta find it. It's for the ground beneath his feet. Can you guess what color that is? Move green. The best shade of green. One of my favorite colors. pretty much it's a lime green. A light grass green. But for a while there, it was one of the harder colors to get from Citadel. I hear a toddler talking. The TLG organized play, which is going to be amazing. Amazing. So, guys, should I, there's a Humble Bundle out there right now. I'm going to get a community poll. For $30, you can get almost all the main books that you need to play and run Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, at first, I will say, when I play tested Pathfinder 2nd Edition, that I did believe it was a dumpster fire. But now reading the release rules online, I have now noticed that it actually seems fairly decent. It's a newish game, and I'm not trying to find a replacement for Castles and Crusades, but Castles and Crusades fits one type of fantasy genre, and this fits another type. And I know there's more people that play these crunchy games. And also I miss Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which was crunchy to begin with, and Pathfinder is like that for me. Should I pay $30 and get all these books and the physical copy of the Player's Handbook, which is normally $50, and the money goes to, I know the NCAAP and also the, charity to try to help promote more people of color in science fantasy. Tell me now, should I throw my $30 there, or should I wait and buy something else? Talk amongst yourself. Alright, now we gotta do the wash. Okay. So, we got us an elf. I gotta do his hair again real quick though. So I've got this. What's this? Red leather wash. It's handmade. It is 2-to-1 mixed flow aid and matte medium. And then a ratio of 20 drops of burnt umber, 15 of scarlet, and 5 of black. This is really good for leather. Let's see here. So this is the thing. When you make washes, this was actually made for me by a friend. That's what you put on the outside of it. So if you need to recreate it, you know what. You got 2-to-1, then you got 20 drops, 15 drops, and 5 of burnt umber, scarlet, and black. Next, we are going to use, I need Seraphim Sepia, and I'm going to need some Beltane Green, Agrax or Shade, and where's my Rackland Flesh Shade? There it is. Alright. Okay. Alright, a little bit more Babe Blonde. Right here. I will say you do feel like you're wasting a lot of paint when you're doing a dry palette, because it does have a tendency to dry out a little bit. Okay, so let's put a little bit of more white on my feathers. I do believe my daughter's home. I hear her talking. She's probably like, why isn't Dad down here? I'm home. I've been gone all week. Can you just come down here and see me? What's up with this stupid stream? Because this is my 14-year-old, almost 15-year-old girl voice complaining about her father. This is Beltane green. It's a good green wash. It's very pigment heavy. You come over here and you put it on the ground, and it makes the ground a little ground looking. Okay. So I'm not slathering washes all over everything today. Okay. Now we're going to take some of my leather, red leather. Ooh. We're going to put this, my friends, on the boots. You can see how red it is. Here she comes up the steps. She bust in here, guys. I'm sorry. She might not, though. She might be going to her bedroom. She doesn't miss me that much. I love her, though. She's the coolest. Alright, now I'm going to take some Reichland Flesh Shade right here, and I'm going to put it, of course, on the flesh, because that's where that goes. So we'll put some right here on the hands, as you can see. There. Some right there. And some on the face to add a little bit more definition than I already left. I'm trying to keep his face as dark as possible. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the Reichland Flesh Shade and put it on his sword as well, in the gold areas and in the copper. It gives it a warmer look, as I've said in the past, than using a nun oil wash like some people do, which is still fine. You want those warm colors with gold-ish colors. Now we got Agrax or Shade. Now, which is lighter, Agrax or Sepia? I think Sepia. So I'm going to put this on the main part of the model. So I'm going to put it back here on the quiver of arrows. Yep, that's my daughter. Then I'm going to put it on the main part of the cloak right here. This is to tone it down some, just to give it a little bit more definition. I'm not going to put it on the top part of the cloak. Okay. And I am going to put it on the Monster Brown. The leather right there. Okay, and these straps here. Let's see here, this area right here. And let's just say the hobo. Okay, then I'm going to come in with the Seraphim, and I'm going to put this on top of his head, that whole shoulder cowl, and his hood. Like here. This gives it a different color brown that we'll work with, and we'll also use this on his hair a little bit. I left the strap out. Great. There we go. Let's see here. I'm going to take some of this and put it on the feathers. Yep, some kid's yelling. My daughter's home. Yep, it's my son. He's mad. That's what happens, guys, when you have 3 kids. Never anybody is all happy at the same time. Okay, that's it. So, how's he look? He's still gonna dry a little bit. There's some places that we can dry brush at when he's. Let's get some of this pulling up here. We don't want to pull too bad there. So, going over dry brushing, a good option to use with this when he is dry to do some dry brushing on him would be skeleton bone. Skeleton bone isn't white, it's a cream color. It's translucent. It will hit the highlights. It will, it'll be thin enough as you dry brush it on to where the color will still come through, but those highlighted areas work. It's a good overall. If you're going to dry brush everything in one color, use skeleton bone. For fantasy characters like this. But yeah, we did that. Let's see here. We got this guy done. We did 3 3D printed models here. Mr. Skeleton here. This Knight here. And his brother with a little bit better armor, aka got printed on a resin printer. I might give them a wash. Don't know, probably not. Washes don't go really well over 3D printed items either, so it's the only other problem that I've had out of them. But yeah, there it is for the night, guys. What do y'all think? What do you want to know next time? What do you want me to cover? Just let me know. Shoot me some messages and things like that. Did anybody answer my... Sorry, I don't see the chat. Did anybody answer my question about my stuff from Pazio through Humble Bundle? Should I do it or should I not do it? What do you guys think? Oh, see, that's the thing, though. I collect. See, I like books on my shelf. And, I like being able to have at least the player's handbook in case somebody's like, hey, Daniel, you want to play a game with us? And I'm like, sure, guys. Let me get my stuff for it. So, not all my friends play CNC. I've been trying to get them more and more lined up. I've got one friend that only played Pathfinder 1st edition. And somebody talked him into playing 5th edition, and he liked it. And I'm like, why? Let me introduce you to Castles of Crusades. Didn't like it. I got another buddy who will play Castles of Crusades, not Chuck. But he prefers 3rd edition and Pathfinder. Then I have friends, I don't know why, that still like 5th edition. So, 5th edition died for me a few months back, so I decided to never play it unless I have to. So, I sold all my books too. It's like, I'm done. I got Castles of Crusades, but I still like to have a player's handbook around in case somebody wants me to play. Anyway, I guess I want to end it here. If there's any more questions, got 8 minutes left, 7 minutes, and I'm going to go downstairs and see my daughter because I haven't seen her in 5 days. So, alright guys, if you have any questions or concerns, holler back at me. Bye.